The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our April Child Nutrition webinar. It is great to have you with us today. My name is Colleen Fillmore, and I am the Idaho State Department of Education Child Nutrition Director. And along with me today is the rest of the CMP State Agency team. We are super excited to let you know that we have an additional member on our team. This is not a replacement of anyone that has left, but an additional spot. The superintendent was very supportive of child nutrition and knowing how our workload had increased dramatically. So here we have a picture of Heath Roborty. I hope I said that correctly, Heath. And Heath has been with us for maybe not quite a week yet. He is working mainly in the PEBT program, and Linda will be talking about that a little bit later. And then when PEBT settles down, his main responsibility will be working with Kim in the CACFT section in the fiscal area. And of course, as our entire team constantly is helping each other, we always kind of go over and help each other in different areas. That is really all I have for the introduction today. I wanted to make my introduction very short because we have a very packed agenda. So please go ahead and start submitting the questions that you have throughout the webinar. If something happens that we do not get to your question, we will, as always, get the Q&A up on the reopening website and the answer will be there for you. And again, of course, you can always either call us or email us too if it is more urgent. So right now, I'm going to pass this along to Linda, who is going to be talking about PEBT. So Linda, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Colleen. Okay, I am going to quickly go over PEBT. We have some new information in there. So most of you know what PEBT is. It's a program for families who've missed meals due to COVID, and these don't count under grab and go. So they could have gotten a grab and go meal. They just missed the meal at school due to COVID. Each child will get a separate card issued to them, and I want to make sure everybody knows that a press release will be going out from the superintendent's office on this program soon, so expect calls to increase. Okay, calendars. Say only one calendar sent to me would help. Don't have 2 or 3 sent because then I have to keep comparing the different calendars. If you want me to, or Heath or anybody else, to redo the calendars, let us know. Send me an email after you've done your calendars to let me know if you've opened or if you've opened and suddenly have to shut down due to COVID. The students whose parents pulled them out to homeschool or signed them up for virtual school not on our program do not qualify for PEBT. Okay, next, the benefits. Using the calendars, we know what SFA is eligible to receive benefits for their schools, and we have calculated almost all of them. We're missing 5 SFAs, 48 calendars, and the benefits range from $20.46 to $845.73 per student at schools, and it is a school-by-school benefit. So if one class in a school is out due to COVID and the class is not a majority of the students in the school, they don't receive a benefit for being out. We are basing this on school models. So expect calls to your schools asking for information from your parents. We hope to be asking for lists of students in mid-May timeframe to issue benefits, June, and that would go to health and welfare, and hopefully they get distributed in July. We have a template to use with the information needed when time comes, so be aware that emails for PEBT may come out. Now, PEBT and CEP sound the same, and we're about the same time, so we're sort of crashing into each other right at the moment. Just make sure if you get a CEP email, that is CEP, PEBT is PEBT. I know that's confusing, I'm sorry. So examples, I want to stress these are examples all by school buildings predominant learning model. For those SFAs with a virtual school that have opted to enroll all students in one school building, the students attending in-person classes in that building are used as the predominant learning model. So example 1, reduced hours of operation. And they have 1 day out, they would get a 1 day benefit of $682 a week. Example 2 is a virtual benefit, and that's $34.10 a week for each week, so 2 weeks delayed opening. Example 3, the elementary school qualifies for the hybrid benefit of $20.46 for all weeks the students are out for 2 or more days, but it is possible the elementary school and your middle school will get a different benefit. So on the next one, example 4, schools qualify for the $20.46 benefit first, and then they move to 1 day of hybrid learning per week. So they start with $20.46 benefit, and then when they move to 1 day virtual per week, they get a 1 day benefit of $682. Example 5, the middle school is out due to COVID, but every elementary and high school were in, so the middle school students would qualify for benefits. However, all the other school sites will not receive benefits. So responsibilities for the state agency, we will do a statewide training for those schools that qualify. We will send out information in the next few weeks to schools that didn't qualify and say, based on the calendars you submitted, we've determined that you have not qualified, and we want to make sure you know that you haven't qualified. And the other schools, we will probably be reaching out and saying, this school qualified for this amount, this school qualified for that amount, just so you know how much a student is expected to receive if you get calls or when you get calls for parents. So expect schools to start getting calls because we have done some outreach with organizations, and the addresses need to be correct in the student information system so that it goes to the correct parent. And they are going to make a push to get applications free and reduced sent to the schools so they do qualify. So if you get an application for free and reduced up until May 1st, it actually goes back, determination goes back to the beginning of the school year just this once due to COVID. I'll stress that again. If you get an application up until any time from July 2020 to May 1, 2021, just that time only can you backdate it to the beginning of the school year. So collect applications and make sure in the student information system, the primary parent's information is correct. This will help ensure that the cards are delivered and go to the correct address. And the program is for free and reduced students only unless they are in a CEP school, and that qualifies them for all students to qualify. We want to ensure the custodial parent is correct. So last time we had a parent receive a card who had a no contact order with the child, and the child, she was a senior in high school. She was very upset. So this is the time to get all the information correct, which will help with calls that you might receive. So live PEBT resources, the website is now live. We had a presentation with the Idaho Hunger Relief Task Force this week to get the word out to parents to contact their school. The website will have information added in English and Spanish. Translation does take me a little while because I have to have somebody check it. I'm not that good. Neither is Google or Office 365. This will be important information that you could use to send out to parents to get the word out to them. So just to reiterate, a press release from our office will be coming out soon, and that may increase the calls that are coming to your agency, SFA, soon. So watch for that press release and expect the calls to go up at your school. The PEBT email address is live and the 800 number is live, and I'm doing a question on that. I've left a message on it. I know it works, but I don't know how to retrieve them yet. We're getting instructions on that hopefully today, so don't call the number. Call me, call Heath, call Kat, call Sean, call someone in our office if you have any questions. And now I'm going to hand it off to Marianne. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to take this time for a quick reminder regarding the SFSP health inspection reimbursement from the state agency that our current SFSP sponsors are able to submit. If you are currently operating the summer feeding program, SFSP, you are able to submit if you have received your first and second health inspection between October 1st, 2020 to now. You're able to submit a reimbursement request to the state agency. Please be sure to fill out the FY21 health inspection reimbursement request form that is available on the download forms on My Idaho CMP. Once you've uploaded that form on your SFSP packet, please be sure to send an email to Jamie at jgibson@sde.idaho.gov to let her know that you've submitted your form so that we can go in there and process that request. Unfortunately, we don't get notified when the reimbursement form has been submitted, so it's very important for you to notify Jamie that you've submitted that so that it can flag us and we can go in there and process that. So again, if you've received your first and second health inspection, if you're operating the SFSP program between October 1st to now, you're able to submit your health inspection reimbursement request to the state agency. So with that reminder, I'm going to hand it off to Heather. Go ahead, Heather.
Good morning, everyone. This is Heather. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Seamless Summer option and contrast between that program and the Summer Food Service program. So Jamie, if you go to the next slide, please. We're going to start with a Q&A section just to address who this really applies to. You've gotten several emails about some USDA waiver. So the first question we want to address is, do the USDA waiver extensions for summer of 2021 apply to my organization? And the answer is the USDA waiver extensions for summer of 2021 only apply to sponsors that plan to operate a summer meal program for their community after the school year has ended. And this decision to operate would be a local level decision. So we want everybody to have the information, and then it's your responsibility to tell us whether you plan to utilize these waiver flexibilities. So the next question would be, with the waiver extensions for summer 2021 operations, can I serve free meals to all children when school begins in the fall? And the answer to that is no. While the waiver flexibilities were extended until September 30th, They apply only to programs operating in the summer. USDA will issue further guidance for school year 2021-2022 in the future. And the final question of this little Q&A section is, may we continue to operate closed enrolled sites that limit participation to students enrolled in summer school during summer 2021 as well? The scenario here is that in school year 2021, USDA issued flexibilities to allow schools to operate closed enrolled sites under SSO and SFSP that limit participation to enrolled students only. That is not typical in closed enrolled sites during summer operations. So the answer to this question is no. Under current USDA guidance, the flexibilities that permit closed enrolled sites to limit participation to enrolled students only applies during school year 2021. Once the school year has ended, accredited summer schools do not qualify to operate closed enrolled sites, meaning the vast majority of those who plan to operate a summer program would be open. So just wanted to go over those 3 questions before going into the operating procedure to communicate to the state agency what you do plan to do in the summer. So if you plan to operate seamless summer, there is a different process for open site compared to closed site. And again, this is only for those who are planning to operate a summer program. It's not even for anyone who might be extending the instructional year. If your district is extending the instructional year, you already have the waiver flexibilities approved to do so. This is transitioning into a summer program. So if you elect to do so, you would opt into the summer 2021 SFSP/SSO waiver extension form. Keyword there is extension form, so you're really extending approved flexibilities under SSO. And then if you are an open site, you are able to go into My Idaho CMP, update the summer end date so that that last date of operation in each site application, in each SSO site application, as well as add the number of operating days, and then update any meal service times to reflect when you plan to operate that summer program. You would start that process April 30th because there is it's a current application that you would be modifying, and we want to be as accurate as possible. So that process of updating your application will begin the end of April, and then the deadline for completing those updates would be May 14th. That's if you are operating an open site. If you're in the situation where you want to operate SSO in the summer, but you're currently a closed enrolled site, you will submit the summer 2021 SFSP SSO waiver extension form, again extending current flexibilities you've already been approved for. However, because changing your site application would modify the site from going closed to open, we want you to wait until the end of your school year to make that modification, because that's a fundamental change in the nature of how you're operating. So that's for anybody who is looking to operate a summer program through the seamless summer option. And there's a slightly different process for SFSP, so I want to give you a compare and contrast before I hand it back to Marianne. So seamless summer, as you can see here, you're receiving the reimbursement rates for the National School Lunch Program. It's a subset of the National School Lunch Program, so you have the same meal pattern as NSLP and School Breakfast Program. So you would be responsible for all the vegetable subgroups over the course of the week, same calorie, saturated fat, sodium level restrictions. Meal pattern follows that of the NSLP and School Breakfast Program. The reimbursement rate pairs that. Additionally, there are requirements for operating SSO because this is a new program in Idaho. We have been continually developing our approval process for that. So be aware, if you operate SSO, anyone who operates SSO and is receiving an AR next year is subject to review, an SSO site review during the summer prior to their administrative review. Again, you would need to update the sponsor and site applications to indicate what your operational program is. There are 3 SSO online trainings, so those are available in the CMP training portal. Those are new, and those would be a part of the preparation to operate over the summer. So those would need to be taken prior to implementing the program. There's also SSO site monitoring requirements similar to the point of service counting reviews that we do in National School Lunch Program. There's the requirement to monitor what is happening at each of those SSO sites. And The sites would need to be open with current USDA guidance. The ability to run a closed enrolled site for only program participants is not allowed. And there are public notification requirements with that because many of our SSO sites are currently closed. They would need to communicate to the community that this is a community program, a community feeding program, and anyone is welcome to participate. So that's SSO. The Summer Food Service Program has a higher reimbursement rate. Again, both of those are all free to the students, but the reimbursement rate for summer food service is higher. The meal pattern is more streamlined, assuming different operations during the summer. And if you've operated SFSP, the Summer Food Service Program, in the past, then you're somewhat streamlined to operate this summer. And you would simply follow those annual training requirements, as well as having a pre-operational visit via Zoom. So just connecting with our SFSP coordinators and having a Zoom call, so a video conference call. And then similar to SSO, site monitoring requirements and public notification. So if you're a new sponsor, there is the additional requirement of receiving an SFSP administrative desk review during that first summer of operation. So hopefully this visual, if you're on the fence or you're trying to decide what program you might be operating in the summer, if your district is asking you, hopefully this can be a helpful comparison. And then I'm going to turn it over to Marianne so that she can go through the election process for SFSP if you choose to operate that this summer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather. So very similar, as you guys can see on the screen, a very similar path that Heather just reviewed for SSO. There are a couple of minor changes, so we want to make sure that we review that with you. So for any SFSP sponsors currently operating this school year who are planning to operate during the summer months, you will need to opt in for the extension waivers as well. And as you guys all know, we sent all of those links a couple weeks ago, but if you happen to lose it in your email, please be sure to reach out to us and we'll be sure to send that over to you. So under the open sites, if you're operating the open sites right now and you are going to continue to operate open sites for your summer operation, you can go ahead and update your site applications as necessary. Please make sure to update your site applications to reflect the summer end date and the summer meal service times. And as a reminder for the summer feeding sponsors, you are required to complete a new public release and health department notification for your summer operations. Since majority of the information will be changing, you are required to complete these two steps. As you guys all remember, we did that back in the fall, but since you'll be changing your summer operations, you are required to submit a new public release and the health department notification as well. And for this packet, you will need to submit your SFSP packet by April 30th. For any sites that are currently operating closed enrolled sites during the school year, very similar steps, you will need to opt in to the extension waiver as well. For sites that are closed right now, do not update your site applications until the end of the school year. Again, very fundamental changes, as Heather mentioned, going from closed to open sites. And so we want to make sure that we're capturing that at an accurate timing for the changes to occur. And so we want you to wait until the end of the school year to update your site applications. Again, similar to the open sites, when you update your site application, please make sure to update your summer end date and the summer meal service times. And the same steps for you as well. You will need to complete a new public release and health department notification for your summer operations. And for the due date to submit your packet, just make sure to submit your SFSP packet application prior to the start of your summer operations. We understand that that varies from sponsor to sponsor, so please make sure to work on that at the end of your school year, updating your information and submitting that before your summer operations. Next slide. So with this slide showing on your screen, the screenshot on the screen, it is a spreadsheet that is available for our summer feeding sponsors or even SSO sponsors if you would like. with the previous slide that I was just talking about, there is a path there, the second path, the switching from closed during the school year to open sites during the summer months. We understand, since we are requiring you to not submit your site application until the end of the school year, we understand that this may present a challenge as you're planning for your summer operation. And obviously needing to know what information you currently have on your site applications. And depending how many site applications you have, you will need to, go from one site application to another. So with this in mind, the state agency can provide a site information summary report containing all site information from all of your site applications. Along with this report, we can also provide this Excel spreadsheet, the screenshot that you're seeing right now, as a tool for you to utilize planning for your site operation this summer. As you can see on the screenshot, we have the site name, open or closed sites, meal type, the days of operation, start date, end date, meal times, start time, etc., etc. We understand that so many you guys are dealing with so many moving parts and information changes, it seems like, on a weekly basis. And so we wanted to provide these tools and resources for you guys to utilize as you plan for your summer. Now, once you have your plan finalized, and indicate so on this Excel spreadsheet that we're showing you right now, you can transfer these information or use these information when you begin updating your site applications on My Idaho CMP. It is an extra form to fill out, but it's very similar to how we operate. We like to, we're very visualized, so we want to. It's always so helpful to have everything in one sheet of paper, again, as opposed to going from one site application to another. And so we thought that this may be helpful for you. So if you're interested in receiving the site information summary report and this Excel spreadsheet, please be sure to just contact the state agency and we can pull that report for you and email that to you, as well as this Excel spreadsheet. So with that, I would like to pass it on to Jessica.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to very quickly just go through some information regarding the community eligibility provision. Today is April 1st, so if you are currently on CEP or are interested in opting into the program, you are required to run a direct certification report. This is a federal reporting requirement for those operating CEP, so please be sure to get that done today. Okay. I'd like to very briefly just review program requirements. Sponsors may elect a school, a group of schools, or the entire district to operate CEP, so long as your selection has an identified student percentage of 40% or higher. While operating CEP, you must serve both breakfast and lunch for free to all students. Sponsors cannot issue or collect free and reduced meal applications, and you must obtain April 1st data each year. Idaho has opted into the nationwide waiver of community eligibility provision deadlines in the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs. However, the state agency is requiring sponsors to continue with that April 1st deadline for data collection. Last year, we had the same waiver in place and folks were able to pick their own date for data collection. However, last year was very hectic as you had just switched over to COVID operations 2 weeks prior. So this year, the April 1st deadline shouldn't come as a surprise to folks. You've been, operating with SSO or SFSP for the majority of the school year. So if you do need to request a different date for data collection, we will require a justification be submitted to the state agency for approval. The other change that has been made for this year is that the CEP election deadline has been moved from June 30th to September 30th for this year. We're very early in the morning today. I've already received emails from folks opting in for this school year, as well as letting me know that they have run their April 1st data. The following steps must be taken by all current and prospective CEP operators. So if you have not already, run and save your April 1st DC report. There have been export issues in the past with PDF, so Excel is the preferred format to ensure you capture the required header pictured here. Next, gather enrollment data for all sites. This includes schools not currently on CEP. You'll want to log into My Idaho CEP and select Community Eligibility Provision from the menu. Once here, you'll click on the Add button for school year 2020-2021. This will bring you to the report. So for CEP sites, you'll need to enter the number of identified students and the total enrollment for that site. For non-CEP sites, you only need to enter the enrollment data for that site. Once the data is entered, click Save to submit. If you can't remember what counts as an identified student, or you want an easy way of calculating the number of identified students, you'll want to go to Download Forms and use the CEP Excel worksheet. Those sponsors starting a new cycle are required to complete this spreadsheet, but it's also a great tool for those starting years 2 through 4, just to see where your numbers are at. In the handout section of the webinar, there is a flyer with additional program information, as well as a checklist outlining the processes for new and existing CEP operators. If you'd like a deeper dive into CEP, I encourage you to take the CEP training in the CMP Learning Portal. And if you have any questions, feel free to enter them in the Q&A section of the webinar. If something pops up later, do not hesitate to contact me. I do prefer email for now since I'm still on maternity leave until Wednesday. That's how important April 1st is, everyone. I'm here for you on maternity leave. But ask as many questions as you want. I would much rather you ask questions and learn the correct information than, be floundering without proper information to move forward. So with that, I am going to pass the torch on to TJ.
Thank you, Jessica, and welcome to the webinar. It's good to have you. Welcome, everyone. I want to go ahead and quickly cover some USDA foods updates as promised in the previous information sent out. So good news is recipient agencies have completed their 2021-2022 WebSEM ordering period, and all those requisitions were submitted for USDA direct delivery and raw bulk material pounds for further processing in WebSEM. So your USDA Foods team immediately got to work consolidating those requisitions. What we'd like to do is cover some highlights of those consolidation efforts. So we began consolidating the requisitions on March 8th, and after weeks of work, we finished the task, left one outstanding decision that still needs to be made, but we have until April 8th to make that decision, and we'll cover that a little bit more in detail later. So essentially wanted to share with you that one of the things that we do in order to honor the majority of the requisitions placed, the USDA Foods team worked with 11 different states to split more than 40 truckloads of differing products. Our efforts help us avoid canceling product requisitions when our collective requisitions in Idaho did not meet the USDA Foods truckload requirement. Truckloads typically range from 912 cases to over 1,400 cases per product, and there are minimums associated with each truckload. The USDA allows for the state distributing agency, that's your USDA Foods team, to use our available entitlement to procure foods on your behalf. So we procured more than 10,000 cases of product that will be made available to all recipient agencies on the surplus tab of the exchange document beginning school year 21-22. However, as previously warned, some cancellations are necessary, particularly when we have limited interest in a product. So if requisitions didn't meet the USDA quarter truckload minimum and/or we couldn't secure the appropriate split truckloads due to the limited interest based on requisitions placed, the requisitions for that product were canceled. As you can see on the slide, several products were canceled as a result. Particularly of interest are the seasonal products. It has come to our attention that it's likely that there's still some confusion about ordering seasonal products as requisitions are placed nearly 18 months prior to the first truckload of shipment of that particular product. The important thing to remember about seasonal products is that while requisitions were due to be placed in February, the entitlement that's impacted would not have been impacted until the following school year. So it wasn't this year's entitlement, 2021, but rather it would have impacted your 22-23 entitlement. However, without those requisitions in place, the seasonal products listed below were canceled. The good news is the state agency always starts the year with as much seasonal product as we can. So for that particular school year, 22-23, we will have truckloads of some products arriving in October. So we'll try to educate better on seasonal products as we move forward. Next slide. So during the consolidation period, actions were taken by the state distributing agency, which generated WebSCM notifications. Some notifications would have included delivery date changes to accommodate specific split truckloads with another state. And also case quantities were sometimes increased or decreased to ensure that we could meet the case quantity requirements for each truckload of product. As previously mentioned, some products were canceled due to limited interest. For instance, we had one truckload of 168 cases requisitioned, and we didn't have any interest from another state to split a load. So with that particular truckload, a requirement of 912 cases and a minimum of 228, it was not financially responsible for us to go ahead and requisition a truck, so we canceled it. It's really important now for you as the recipient agency to be in the know. So make sure that you run your WebSCM requisition status report. This will help you confirm the impact that occurred to you specifically on your WebSCM ordering plan when we consolidated truckloads. We don't want any surprises later on down the line. If for some reason you anticipated a product would arrive, sometimes they'll arrive sooner than you thought. They may arrive later than you planned. And also you may have more or fewer cases than was planned when you placed your WebSCM requisitions. So please make sure you run that report and compare it against the plan that you use to place your requisitions in WebSCM. So many of you received a special invite to this webinar. And the reason for that was because some of the decisions made by the state distributing agency may have caused some panic. You were invited because we want to assure you that we are a strategic team and there is no reason to panic. So if your name is on this list, it's important for you to be aware that a WebSCM notification was generated that indicated that your particular requisitions to National Food Group for the bulk apples was in fact canceled. But we need for you to understand a couple of things about that strategic decision. The state distributing agency determined during the consolidation efforts that there are more than enough bulk apple pounds being carried over from school year 2021 into school year 21-22 to meet the number of pounds requisitioned by those of you that are on this particular list. So it wasn't necessary to ask you to spend your available entitlement to purchase more apples when we had them available for you. So we made the decision to cancel those requisitions. What's really important is two things. Again, run your status requisition report, but also check your entitlement bonus summary report because you'll see that you received a credit for the pounds that were canceled. We need for you to do your homework. It's really important for RAs to find that there entire amount of planned product was canceled, while others will see that just some of the planned product was canceled. So this pertains to everybody. Those of you on the list on this particular slide, your entire requisition was canceled. But the rest of you listening to this webinar, you may find that some of your bulk apple requisitions were canceled. And if you were impacted, the good news is that the state distributing agency has a strategic plan for you to order the product that you would have been shorted. So next slide, please. This slide is specific to those recipient agencies who placed requisitions for diced peaches that would have gone to National Food Group. Same situation applies here. If you're on this list, if you're on the list that's just peachy on the diced peaches, then your requisition was canceled. However, we had multiple days. So it's important to realize that you need to run your report and compare those with your WebSCM planning so you know how many pounds were kept in place and how many were actually canceled. And next slide, please. It wasn't just the peaches at National Food Group, it was also the pears. So all of those previously mentioned products, bulk apples, diced peaches, and diced pears, the state agency determined we have enough carryover pounds to cover your requisitions. So if you're on this list, while your requisition was canceled, you will have an opportunity to receive the full measure of peaches, pears, or applesauce that you planned for. So let me tell you how that's going to happen. Next slide, please. Those school districts who were previously mentioned will have the opportunity to participate in a new tab that has currently been developed. However, it is under wraps until we release it for school year 21-22. The school districts mentioned on our previous slides will have what we consider priority boarding. In other words, you're going to have the opportunity to place the request or an order for the number of cases you will need to meet your entire school year 21-22 needs for those previously mentioned products on our sweeps tab. We have set it up so that essentially what you will do is go in and identify how many more cases of product you will need for the entire school year 21-22, and you will be able to place your orders on this particular tab, and you will have priority. In other words, we will offer you, those that were strategically impacted, the opportunity to complete the sweeps tab before we release it to others who may also want to ask for additional pounds of product. So keep that in mind, but again, it's critical that you do your homework before you plan on ordering on that sweeps tab. We need for you to know what you planned, what your WebSCM requisition status reports tell you you may still have coming, and what you will need to order. So this is a really important example. Those WebSCM notifications are critical to your success, and we need for you to read them carefully. So this was a question that came to me after a notification was received by a very observant food service director. The email said, and I quote, "Hi, Teresa. I just received a requisition change on my 240 pounds of pork, and the new value says canceled. Should I be concerned about this?" What a great question. Thank you for paying attention to that, because we want for you to understand a few things. These reports are really, really important. This particular notification was generated because this food service director had placed requisitions for JTM pork sausages, and those requisitions were canceled. So Just like the National Food Group, those requisitions were canceled, but it was a strategic cancellation. The state distributing agency spent a lot of time during the consolidation period to review our spreadsheets, to determine historic usage, analyze the number of cases of product currently at our state contracting warehouse, or the number of raw material bulk pounds still available for access. We projected estimated carryover based on continued school year 21-22 usage. And of course, we relied extensively on our crystal ball to make decisions about 21-22. Our team is confident that given all the uncertainty of the past school year, as well as the unknowns of the coming year, we've made decisions that will lead to reduced inventory levels, more efficient use of USDA foods during school year 21-22, and all requisitions will be able to be honored in one fashion or another. Next slide, please. So speaking of the observant food service director, lots of work, as just mentioned, has gone into determining how much raw bulk material will be needed to meet the needs of recipient agencies in the coming year. As you may remember from our previous webinar and town hall events, Tyson, along with other processors, were given a directive to reduce what is known as their book inventory. Idaho had 5 truckloads of raw material chicken and 1 truckload of coarse ground beef canceled during recent months. However, we analyzed our carryover products for the bulk pork, and we could determine that it will exceed the projected needs for products in the coming school year. Therefore, in order to comply with USDA 6-month inventory regulations, our team canceled the requisitions that were placed in WebSCM. So just like we mentioned with the other bulk products, you've got to do your homework. You need to run your requisition status report. And you also need to check it against your WebSCM ordering plan and see if you were impacted. So if we determine that we had underestimated how much of this product will need to be used, the good news is that we have the ability to work directly with Tyson to find a split load to order, or we can place another requisition on behalf of recipient agencies to USDA for an entire truckload if it's warranted closer to the end of the school year. This particular product can be ordered on a quarterly basis. So there really is no need to panic. Let's talk about our strategic reduction of Cargill bulk egg requisition. So we determined that based on the information that we had, again, using all the previous analytical tools that were mentioned, that we could reduce the requisitions that were placed by half and still have enough projected carryover from school year 2021 to cover those reductions. Some of this resulted from the low usage during the COVID period, but note that your entitlement was also returned. And as previously mentioned, we will have these products available on the new Sweeps tab. So if you were impacted by the reduction, you'll be able to claim our carryover pounds to get you through school year 21-22. Next slide, please. There is one product where our decision is still being considered because this requisition does not have to be approved by USDA until April 28, 2021. The reason that we're still considering it is we found just last week that USDA requested a truckload of beef that we anticipated coming in this school year was in fact canceled. It was a split load that we were sharing with another state. So previous to that cancellation, we had already made some determinations about our carryover and were prepared to institute our plan for consolidation. But then when we learned about this cancellation, we want to go back and reevaluate because we know we currently have 13,000 pounds of carryover projected, but we also know that the requisitions that were placed equal about 5 1/4 truckloads. So we're going to go back to the drawing board, make sure that we have enough data to accurately submit a requisition, whether it be 5 trucks, or we bump up, or we try to find a split load with another state. But that decision is to be determined. So we want you to pay close attention to those reports that we previously talked about so that you will know what our decision was if you ordered this particular product. Next slide, please. So the state distributing agency will now be implementing a sweeps policy. The sweeps policy was actually created over a year ago. It's an annual inventory management tool that's used to assist in utilization of raw bulk materials. We have attached a copy of the policy as a handout on this particular webinar, so please make sure that you download it so you understand the policy. While we created the policy a year ago, we have never enacted it because we wanted to, again, we tried to be very strategic as we've made changes in the way we order USDA foods to educate and allow for some learning opportunities before we enacted the policy. But we do feel that it is necessary now to go ahead and institute that policy. So the state distributing agency allowed rollover of raw material banks from school year 1920. However, we will sweep those bank pounds near the end of this particular school year. That will happen sometime early to mid-June. The timing will depend on when the last orders of the year are reported by Northwest to processors and all transactions have been reported and individual recipient agency banks have been drawn down. What will then occur is the individual banks will be swept into a state agency account, and then the available remaining pounds will be placed on the sweeps tab, so you will be able to have the opportunity to reclaim those products if you plan to use them. So it's important to note that all of the raw material banks that we previously discussed, which include eggs and chicken and beef and pork and raw peanuts, all those are raw material pounds. There will be a couple of products that will end up on the bonus tab because those products have now carried from school year 1819, 1920, and now we're going to make them bonus. So the Pilgrim's chicken products and the Simplot potato products will all be bonus. What that means is there is no entitlement, so anyone that wants to take those products will be able to do so. We are also offering a new Simplot product, so please watch for that. We really want to take a few minutes to help educate on vernacular. It's really important in the USDA foods world to pay attention to our terminology. The state distributing agency wants to make sure that recipient agencies are keenly aware of the differences in available USDA products because there are unique processes that affect one category that don't necessarily impact the other. In the Inventory Release Software System, also known as IRIS, recipient agencies see that direct delivery products offered by USDA, like number 10 cans of fruits and vegetables and legumes, frozen fruits and vegetables, and certain minimally processed products like diced chicken or sliced ham and turkey are categorized in IRIS as USDA, then the product description as shown on the left of the slide. These products are not part of the sweeps policy, but they are subject to the 60-day dwell time policy for warehousing. Logic tells you that cases and cases and cases of these products sitting for extended periods of time at the warehouse will have a detrimental effect on our ability to receive additional truckload shipments. So these products must be delivered to your schools in a reasonable amount of time from when they're received at the warehouse. That's why we call it a 60-day dwell time policy. Please don't wait until the end of the school year to place cases of products that have been sitting at the warehouse for months and months and months onto the exchange tab. Recipient agencies are responsible for requesting delivery within 60 days of product being received. So being proactive could have allowed another recipient agency the opportunity to claim product, and it would have been consumed by students in the year it was received. So let's talk about the right side of this slide. In IRIS, recipient agencies will see that further processed products made from raw material banks offered by USDA, like raw material pork, chicken, beef, peanuts, eggs, liquid eggs, bulk apples, etc. They're categorized in IRIS as CMDY, which stands for commodity. Then the product description, as shown on the right of the slide. The state distributing agency typically uses the term further processed because USDA has frowned on the term commodities for a while. But IRIS was set up with that distinction, so please be aware of it. Further processed products are subject to the sweeps policy, but because they are ordered into the warehouse using a just-in-time method, they are not sitting pre-made for months and months and months. So the 60-day dwell time requirement isn't relevant. However, as we just discussed, they are subject to sweeps policies. So now that you understand how all of this applies, be prepared to be more proactive with your inventory management for school year 21-22. Next slide, please. If an RA determines there are direct delivery products in their IRIS account that they will not be able to use, one option is to surrender them and allow another recipient agency to claim the product. Because there seemed to be some confusion about the exchange document having an exchange tab, we changed the name to clearly state the objective. You will be surrendering the product that you ordered for the benefit of another RA. Identifying USDA food inventory issues early and often should become a routine part of the recipient agency's inventory management practices. Some products, however, are not eligible for surrender, and the state distributing agency has seen multiple issues with the way that the exchange tab was previously used. So in order to shore up that process, we have changed our procedure. Recipient agencies will use a newly created template to list the products they want to offer on the tab and submit the template to the USDA Foods team using the USDA Foods team email address. The template has been attached as a handout to this webinar, and more information and instruction on using that will be made available in the coming months. This practice will not take place until school year 21-22. Next slide, please. There are some rules to the game. If you want to surrender product, it's really, really important that you follow the rules of the game. The state distributing agency may use discretion and remove items and notify the surrendering recipient agency that the product must be released in the inventory release software system if it sits for an extended period of time and goes unclaimed. And with this particular process, entitlement value may be transferred. Some products may not, but typically they are. And then this is to ensure that the value of commodities received report in WebSCM is accurate. The other rules of the game come from the claiming recipient agency's perspective. It's essential that a recipient agency claiming products isn't using a save these policy. In other words, the 60-day dwell time applies. If you claim the product, you cannot surrender it again. You will pay the per case delivery fees, and you need to request delivery of the product in that 60-day period during the year that it was claimed. Next slide, please. Currently, there are a limited number of cases, 53, that will be placed on the bonus tab for the Cavendish seasoned potatoes. These were raw material carryovers from 1920, and the recipient agencies who held these pounds have not been using the product. So, as previously explained, our sweeps policy will be inactive, and those products will be placed on the sweeps tab. And next slide, please. One final announcement. USDA DOD has advised that DOD vendors are willing to provide produce boxes for schools that are providing meals to students who are receiving grab and go due to virtual learning. If you participate in VOD and would find this option valuable, contact Chris at Grasnick or Tessie Bez, our customer service rep, and let them know you'd like to see these products in the favors catalog. And with that, we are done with the USDA Foods section right in the nick of time. So I'm going to turn it over to Colleen for just a quick thank you and appreciate your hanging out with us today.
Thank you, TJ and team. That was a lot of excellent information from all of you, so I really appreciate that. As we mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, it was going to be very packed today. We have a lot of moving parts going on, and we have run out of time, so we do not have time for the Q&A. I have noticed that the team has done an excellent job in answering the majority of the questions. So again, as a friendly reminder, we will be putting the Q&A out on the reopening website. But if one of these questions is urgent, please feel free to either email us or give us a call. We're happy to answer that right away. And if it's something that you can wait for on the Q&A, it will probably be up on the website by early next week. So
Hey,
thank
Colleen.
you very much. Yes.
Colleen, can I make one quick announcement for everyone? The PEBT link on my slide was wrong. So in the chat, I put the new link. However, everybody can get to the PEBT website from the Child Nutrition main web screen page. There is a button, so I wanted to let everybody know that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Linda, for that update. So at this time, the webinar will be ending. Again, if you have anything that is urgent on the Q&A, give us a call or email us. We're happy to get that to you right away. Thank you, everyone, for all of your hard work. We appreciate each and every one of you. Bye-bye.